everybody, my name is Luke Moir and this is Haute Le Mode, and today on Haute Le Mode we are going to be reviewing Prada's Fall/Winter 2021 menswear collection. I wasn't gonna do this, but then it was kind of so good that I had to, so let's get into it. Miuccia Prada and Raf Simons is a fashion design duo not many saw coming ever. Yet, the Fall/Winter 2021 collection saw the two titans not clash, but dance together in such a cohesive way. And that's not a reference to the models dancing during the show, because that was nowhere near cohesive. This is the duo's debut menswear show, and while I initially wasn't going to review it, it was such a strong showing it felt that it deserved its own video. The brand describes the collection as, quote, an intimate and personal wish for contact, our urge to exchange and relate. The foundation of all is the individual, the human body and its freedom. The need to feel, the pleasure of tactility results in a panoply of surface, texture, and textile, and it sounds like Moira Rose wrote that little show note. The collection started with pinstripe suits with pushed up sleeves that exposed graphic undershirts that differed from the sweater layered over it. This is a brilliant reference to Miuccia Prada's styling throughout the years. From spring/summer 2004 to spring 2018, it's become a subtle styling trick that even Miuccia has employed in her own personal dressing. If there's one thing we should know, Miuccia Prada always wears her clothes. I also can't help but notice the brilliance of the set, something I usually tend to stay away from. Rem Koolhaas and the AMO's fuzzy walls and graphic floors give the show the feeling of an ad campaign and help to elevate the vision in my opinion. Is it most definitely a reference to the Dior Haute Couture Raf Simons walls of roses and flowers? Probably, but like, I'm okay with that. My first response to the geometric jacquard knit onesies was what any normal person would think: horror. But these prints have become central to the Prada brand since they were shown during the spring 1996 Ugly Chic collection. Miuccia Prada is constantly exploring the notion that fashion doesn't always have to be glamorous, and this is a great example of that. Button-ups in polos and cardigan knits were paired over turtlenecks, while beautiful coats also emerged. Now, I've heard a lot about this collection that it was Raf's and had no Prada-isms, and I think that's dead wrong, and anybody telling you that is an idiot. Two bomber jackets feel very Raf, a style that is synonymous with his work. The Riot 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 camouflage bombers from fall 2001 is a style that has gone down in archival fashion history. From $20,000 to $50,000, the jackets are a cult figure in and of themselves. So bombers lined with knits were a nice little gesture to that iconic piece, as well as a continuation to the knits we saw at Calvin Klein 205 West 39 NYC. I can't believe we used to say that name out loud. But while this is definitely a Raf style through and through, the nylon I presume it's made of reminds me of Miuccia's fall 1994 collection, where military coats in nylon grace the runway. Bomber jackets were created in 1917 by the US Army, meaning they too are military-inspired nylon styles. Put it together, people, come on. I can't dismiss the fact that Miuccia consistently references herself, and I doubt that these styles are any different. A wool coat with oversized pockets is a stark contrast against the white gloves that the model wears, which have history with both Miuccia and Raf. Raf Simons has shown gloves before, with his Calvin Klein collection showing latex gloves, which could have been an early igniter of the latex trend we saw last season. But he also made gloves for his spring 2018 collection under his own label, which had a cigarette case strap of some sort, which could have been a precursor to the pockets on these gloves. Miuccia is also into gloves, with her spring 2001 collection showing opera styles, but her spring 1999 collection is where the real interest lies. Spring 1999 is when Miuccia debuted Prada Sport, which she was initially hesitant to do, but the collection allowed her to show almost knee-length boots that at the top had a strap and pouch. It's a simple aspect of Miuccia's input, which many heavily attribute to Raf, and I think that's so interesting in this dynamic. Many feel that Raf's lexicon has washed over this fall 2021 menswear collection and the spring 2021 women's wear collection as well. And I think this season it became so clear that this is really a dialogue, although last season was actually called Dialogue. And it should be, as Miuccia Prada makes collections through thought and theory rather than sitting at a sewing machine. Some might think that Raf almost shouts in these collections, although he says the designers that shout are not that great. But I think Miuccia has a healthy bit of discourse as well here. You just have to listen. But I believe that Miuccia is so comfortable in herself and in her work that her communication through this collection doesn't have to be screaming and shouting. Whispering to her will be just fine. I mean, you wouldn't bring in one of the other biggest names in fashion to co-design with you if you were afraid they were gonna override you, would you? A slew of bulky wool coats do have a very Raf Simons feel to them, and oversized knit collars that push out from under them like weeds further the notion of Simonsisms. Made that one up too. They are all double-breasted and have buttons with Prada triangles on them. I believe Miuccia's collection, they put the Prada, logo on buttons and she despised it and they never did it since. But I mean, listen, like the woman, she's too complex for simple branding. The buttons are a great segue into the fact though that I personally think Raf really enjoys playing with the Prada triangle. Allegedly, the only element of Fratelli Prada, the luxury goods shop Miuccia's grandfather opened in 1913, that Miuccia has carried over from the brand's origins. Miuccia even said in a New York Times article, I was always criticized because I never wanted to do collaborations. I always thought they were more about selling something, making money, than deep dialogue. Which to me means Miuccia doesn't really like to sell out, and like that we stand. And the Prada logo is a money maker, but I don't think she likes to milk it. Yeah, it makes appearances on the runway, but it's never like a Fendi or Dior monogram, and that's not me being shady, but it kind of is. I think Raf wants to explore its meaning, its influence, what it could become. I think that's why each of these coats have a triangle cut at the base of the neck. You'll come to notice that many of the looks in the collection are V-neck, which creates what? A triangle. The next duo of looks are oversized graphic knit sweaters layered over a motif, onesie, and turtleneck. The sweaters are very reminiscent of Raf's fall 2016 collection, which was inspired by the director David Lynch and low-key Martin Margiela, and took Americana varsity sweaters, engorged them, and then tattered them. But there's no signs of deconstruction, but the geometric patterns that Prada is famous for do emerge underneath. I think it's also important we note that the circle motif is back from the spring 2021 women's wear collection, although it's not in the cutout forms for men, which is kind of disappointing because they were kind of cute. Two more nylon coats emerge, confining a bounty of layers, but utilize some of their lining to show graphic knits. I know we've seen it at Calvin Klein 205 West 39 NYC. Still can't believe we're saying that before, but it's nice to see a bulkier version for those looking for true Prada outerwear. A V-neck onesie and two coats with triangle neck openings reinforce my earlier point. I think Raf might even have a triangle fetish, as almost every look has a triangle knit or pouch at the base of the back of the neck. This might be an ode to Martin Margiela though, as Margiela's sole logo were 4 threads of fabric that were visible on clothing at the back of the neck. The first fashion show Raf ever attended was the iconic Margiela Spring 1999 collection, which influenced a then young Raf to leave industrial design studies and pursue fashion, and I personally feel that the upside down triangle with no logo or brand name will give a status to those in the know, the same way Martin's clothing did and still does. Then 3 bomber coats in green, pink, and purple emerge, and I actually still can't tell if they're nylon or leather. I presume they're nylon because that would make a lot of sense, but the gloss on them is so reflective, I feel like they could be leather as well. I'm really not sure, but like either way, I'm happy about it. They're bright and punchy and lovely and might go down in history with their 20-year-old brothers. I still can't get the green one out of my head. It's just so hot. It's so hot. It's such a good take on a classic green bomber jacket. More double-breasted coats emerge, 1 in leather and 2 in wool. There's nothing crazy about them, but making nice product that appeals to non-fashion lovers and just fashion wearers makes a lot of sense. And Prada also has gone through a little bit of a financial struggle, so putting out commercial product makes sense for the brand. A pastel blue and pastel purple coat emerge in what looks to be a Sherpa, and they're sweet. I think overloading the collection with too many references might not allow the collection to breathe on its own, but it's also Prada, which has built its ready-to-wear on Miuccia's consistent referencing of herself, so that one's still up for debate. And anybody saying, oh, there's too much referencing, like that's f***ing Prada, that's the whole point. They do both carry bright Prada backpacks, which might become a new streetwear staple if marketed correctly. And the gloves keep coming, which makes me wonder if gloves were on Raf and Miuccia's mind due to the pandemic and people's fears of spreading the virus and now almost routine use of hand sanitizer or hand washing. Possibly. Hopefully you do both. or maybe not. I don't know, I'm not a medical professional. 3 button-up coats with pushed-up sleeves and graphic sleeves that shoot out from underneath them emerge. They each have a Prada triangle pouch at the back, and the final look of the trio carries a brown nylon backpack. To me, that's a reference to the first 2 Pocono nylon bags that Prada ever produced. One black and the other one brown. And Miuccia has like a love of brown because it's not really commercial. It's like a fun thing that she likes to throw in there often. 3 coats also surface in beautiful colors, but each have distinct lines that run through. I presume it's a type of raised faille fabric, or it could be a matte lissé technique, but either way, they are stunning. Miuccia does mention that the collection has, quote, simple lines, but also ideas that are more physical and sexy, and I feel like this is a manifestation of that. A simple black onesie and no doubt some very expensive knit comes next, and the collection finishes off with some jackets with pushed up sleeves and graphic ones underneath. I can't help but wonder if Raf or Miuccia are on TikTok, as it almost feels like that style of video where the loop almost seamlessly blends together as if the video never starts or ends, because we have 3 at the end and 3 at the beginning. I'm seeing it, people, I'm seeing it. To be honest, I was kind of dreading this collection, but I have been so pleasantly reassured through these 42 looks that this relationship between Raf and Miuccia has promise, and valor, and vigor, and excitement, and fun, and sellability. As I said earlier, this is a dance of 2 titans, and while I think Raf's leading, it's only because Miuccia allows it, and adds in her own moves to make it more of a, dialogue. So let me know what you guys think of the collection down below. I'd love to hear it. I'm so happy to be back doing fashion show reviews, having a good time. I will see you guys on the next one, and TTYL.